On the night of April 26, 1988, Valery Legasov dictated a tape recording in Moscow, claiming that Anatoly Dyatlov, the deputy chief engineer of the station, who was found guilty of the Chernobyl accident and received 10 years in prison for it, deserved to die, having hidden the cassettes in the ventilation next to his house. Legasov returns to the apartment and commits suicide. 2 years earlier, in Pripyat, firefighter Vasily Ignatenko and his wife Lyudmila witnessed an explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Vasily is preparing to take part in extinguishing the fire and assures Lyudmila that he will return home soon. In the control room at the power plant, Dyatlov, Akimov, Tatunov and other NPP employees are recovering from an explosion that occurred during a turbine test. A terrified Perevchenko informs his colleagues that the reactor has exploded and the core has been destroyed. However, Dyatlov is convinced that the core of the RBMK reactor cannot explode, and only the tank of the control and protection system was damaged. When the fire brigades arrive at the power plant, Vasily witnesses his colleague pick up a piece of graphite from the ground and later sees that he received severe radiation burns to his palm from ionizing radiation. Kudryavtsov and Proskuryakov, accompanied by Yevchenko, reach the reactor hull and realize that the active zone is burning with an open flame. Viktor Bryukhanov and Nikolai Fomin listen to Dyatlov's report on the current situation and assure the members of the Pripyat City Executive Committee at the meeting that the situation is under full control. After the meeting, Sitnikov comes to Bryukhanov, Fomin and Dyatlov and informs them that the radiation level is off the scale, and most likely the reactor exploded. Dyatlov is struck down by an attack of acute radiation sickness, and Fomin sends Sitnikov to the roof of a building adjacent to the explosion site. Sitnikov sees that the fourth power unit of the NPP has been completely destroyed, and receives a lethal dose of radiation. Boris Sherbina calls Legasov, who informs him about the incident in Chernobyl, and on behalf of the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the CPSU Mikhail Gorbachev, orders him, as a specialist in RBMK, to join the Government Commission for the Elimination of the Consequences of the Disaster. 7 hours after the incident, Olyana Kamyuk, a scientist from the Institute of Nuclear Energy of the Academy of Sciences of the Belarusian SSR, and her assistant record an increase in radiation levels in Minsk and quickly come to the conclusion that the incident occurred at the Ignalina or Chernobyl nuclear power plants. The Ignalina station confirms that it is operating normally, but Olyana is unable to contact Chernobyl employees. Olyana reports on the radiation danger to the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Belarus, but the secretary of the Central Committee, Garanin, refuses to listen to her, and then the scientist goes to Pripyat on her own. Meanwhile, Lyudmila manages to break through the police cordon to the Pripyat hospital and find out that Vasily, along with other patients with acute radiation sickness, has been evacuated to Moscow. In Moscow, Legasov explains to Gorbachev and the skeptical Sherbina that the situation is much more serious than the Pripyat City Executive Committee reports, and Gorbachev sends Sherbina and Legasov to Pripyat to clarify the circumstances of what happened. During the helicopter flight over the nuclear power plant, Legasov points to fragments of graphite on the roof and a blue ionizing glow, convincing Sherbina that the reactor core is indeed exposed. Sherbina listens to the director of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Bryukhanov, and the chief engineer of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Fomin, who accuse Legasov of misinformation. To confirm one of the points of view, General Pikolov, using a dosimeter with an extended measuring range, drives a truck close to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and proves that the radiation level is extremely high. By order of Sherbina, Bryukhanov and Fomin were arrested. Legasov instructs the military to extinguish the fire with sand and boron, but the task turns out to be very risky. After Sherbina is informed that the international community has learned about this incident, an immediate evacuation of the population of Pripyat has begun. Upon arrival in Pripyat, Kamyuk warns Legasov and Sherbina about the danger of a new disaster, a steam explosion that will occur when molten nuclear fuel leaks into bubbler tanks located under the reactor, filled with water after extinguishing the fire. In Moscow, Legasov asks Gorbachev for permission to send 3 people on a suicide mission to open the sluice valve and start pumping water out of the tanks. Alexei Antonenko, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov volunteer and go down to the basement with radioactive water. Antonenko, Bespalov, and Baranov successfully complete the mission and the bubbler tanks are drained. However, after reconnaissance on the ground, Pikolov warns that the melting of the core has begun. Sherbina and Legasov explain to Gorbachev that soon nuclear fuel will seep through the concrete cushion and pollute the groundwater. They suggest installing a liquid nitrogen cooler under the NPP to lower the temperature and prevent melting. During the walk, Sherbina and Legasov see that they are being followed by KGB officers. The Minister of the Coal Industry, Mikhail Shadov, is asking for help from the two miners, led by the shift supervisor Glukov. Legasov explains Glukov's task. It is necessary to manually dig a tunnel and dig a pit to install a cooler. Miners start working in extremely unfavorable conditions. Legasov sends Komyuk to a Moscow hospital to talk to Dyatlov, Akimov, and Toptunov about exactly what happened on that fateful night on April 26th. Dyatlov refuses to cooperate with Homyuk, but she manages to learn from the dying Toptunov and Akimov that the explosion occurred after Akimov pressed the emergency shutdown button of S5. Homyuk considers this option impossible. In the same hospital, a nurse agrees to let Lyudmila see Vasily for half an hour, but forbids touching him. Lyudmila does not obey the orders of the nurse and remains in the hospital, witnessing the rapid deterioration of her husband's health. Homyuk notices Lyudmila by Vasily's bed and guesses that she is pregnant. Komyuk threatens to make a fuss, but she is arrested by KGB officers. Legasov is seeking her release, promising the first deputy chairman of the KGB Charkov to take responsibility for the actions of Homyuk. Sherbina and Legasov report to Gorbachev that it will take at least 3 years and 750,000 people to eliminate the consequences of the Chernobyl disaster. Lyudmila, next to the relatives of other victims of the accident, looks at how the bodies of the dead, placed in zinc coffins, are poured with concrete in a mass grave. In a village in the exclusion zone, an elderly woman who is milking a cow refuses to evacuate, saying that she did not leave during the revolution, the Holodomor, or the German invasion. However, the soldier forces her to leave by killing the cow. Sherbina, Legasov, and General Nikolai Tarakanov watch as the Lunokid gets to work, clearing the roof of radioactive fragments before the construction of the sarcophagus begins. At the site with the maximum radiation background, it was decided to use a police robot from West Germany, but it instantly fails, since the Soviet government intentionally provided German colleagues with underestimated radiation levels. Tarakanov is forced to send his men to the roof to clean it of graphite manually. Civilian conscript Pavel, paired with Afghan war veteran Bacho, patrols the exclusion zone, shooting abandoned animals exposed to radioactive contamination. After discovering a dog with puppies in one of the houses, Bacho sends Pavel outside and kills them himself. In the scientific library of Moscow State University in Moscow, Komyuk studies the archives, trying to understand what caused the accident. She visits Dyatlov again in the hospital, but he does not want to talk about the Chernobyl incident, as he understands that the Soviet government is not interested in revealing the truth. At a meeting in an abandoned building in Pripyat where there is no KGB wiretapping, Sherbina and Legasov inform Komyuk that they will act as experts at the upcoming trial of Dyatlov, Bryukhanov, and Fomin. Legasov intends to travel to Vienna to address the IAEA. Komyuk shows them an article about a similar incident at the Leningrad nuclear power plant in 1975, which was hidden by the KGB. She also says that Lyudmila gave birth to a girl who died soon after from radiation exposure. Komyuk urges Legasov to tell the IAEA the whole truth, but Sherbina urges him to be careful to avoid revenge from the government. Legasov is stopped in Moscow by a KGB officer and escorted to the first deputy chairman of the KGB, Charkov, who praises Legasov for his brilliant speech at the IAEA conference in Vienna and promises that if he supports the version of the state prosecution as a witness at the trial, he will be awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union and promoted to director of the Kurchatov Institute. Komyuk comes to Legasov's house and convinces him to tell the truth that her BMK and its current constructive design is a threat. Dyatlov, Bryukhanov, and Fomin stand trial in the abandoned city of Chernobyl. The first testimony is given by Sherbina, who explains the general principles of operation of a nuclear power plant. Komyuk and Legasov testify about the events leading to the accident, based on conversations with Chernobyl employees who were present in the control room on the night of the incident. Sherbina's well-being worsens right during the meeting. Coughing, he leaves the hall and the judge calls a break. Legasov follows Sherbina out, who tells him that he feels like an insignificant person who has not done anything useful in his life. The academician encourages him, saying that it was thanks to his work that it was possible to mobilize funds and people to eliminate the consequences of the accident. Legasov says that due to the 10-hour delay in the safety test and Dyatlov's desire to conduct the test at any cost, the reactor was poisoned with xenon, and then an uncontrolled power surge occurred during its launch. Akimov activated the emergency shutdown using the S5 button, but due to the end effect due to a design flaw in the control rods, the reactor power exceeded the plan 10 times and the core exploded. The judge notes that this information contradicts the testimony Legasov gave to the IAEA, and Legasov admits that he lied to the IAEA and the whole world. After the performance, he is arrested by the KGB. Charkov reports that his testimony will not be taken into account by the court and will not be made public in the state media. In addition, he will be banned from talking to anyone about Chernobyl and will not be given any reward for his role in containing the disaster. He is left with a nominal position at the institute but is deprived of his actual job. The finale shows photos and videos of the real Legasov, Sherbina, and other major figures who participated in those events. Their further destinies are revealed, as well as the ongoing consequences of the accident to this day.